We're going to get started with the. Good evening, everyone. Would you please join us in a salute to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could ask you all to remain standing for a moment of silence for Bruce Conley, Maplewood volunteer, former member of the Maplewood Planning Board, Maplewood Civic Association, and Maplewood 4th of July Committee. Moment of silence for Bruce. Thank you very much.
Yeah, hi, Bill. Good, how are you? You too.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2017 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2016, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Ms. Adams? Here. Mrs. Larrier? Here. Mr. Lembrick?
Here. Good night, CC.
Mr. McGehee?
Here.
Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7 provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public in any meeting, whereas desire this governing body to comply with the provisions of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township of Maplewood does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second. Ms. Adams? Yes. Mrs. Larrier? Yes. Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 4th meeting of the Maplewood Township Committee. We have a busy and interesting meeting tonight. We will start off with a public comment session, and these are public comments that don't have to do with the ordinances, and I'll get to those in a moment. So if anyone would like to address the Township Committee on other items, we ask you to come up at that time. Then we'll have our monthly Board of Health meeting, and after that, we will begin dealing with ordinances on final passage. When ordinances on final passage, we will ask at that time for each of those ordinances if there's anyone who wants to speak on that particular ordinance. So a number of you I know are here on the leaf blower, the gas-powered leaf blower ordinance. That will be number 11. So you're certainly welcome to speak on the fees to the pool or the trailers in town, but if you're here on the gas blower, there's two of them, number 11 and number 12. One is the leaf blowers, and the second is regulation on lawn maintenance. We also have some other ordinances on final, which we will work through. I see one here, item number 13, that's in error. We're not dealing with that this meeting. That's the redevelopment area 2. That's not until the 18th.
Does go to planning board first?
It's already been to the planning board, yeah.
I have a memo.
Oh, so
Yes,
yeah.
you're right, we carried it to the...
We carried it till the 18th, right, because it had to be publicized, right? So you can report on it in your thing. Discussion items, we have 5. One is amending a resolution dealing with the residential sources of recyclable materials. 2 is recommendations from the Open Space Trust Fund Advisory Committee. 3 is a revised fee schedule for the Woodland and Bergdorf. 4, state legislation regarding liquor licenses. And 5th, the Mayor's National Climate Action Agenda. We then have a consent agenda. We have 13 items on the consent agenda. We'll be approving the award of contract for road improvements on Parker, adopting an anti-harassment and bullying policy. We have a resolution participating in the Safe and Secure Communities Program. We have bills and claims. We're going to be approving a contractor for planting trees for HVAC maintenance service, mowing of large turf areas, tree removal services, and then we're also retaining a consultant to aid in securing candidates for Maplewood's Fire Department, awarding a contract for pools, chemicals, police contract for the police building, flue pipe replacement, and then approval of minutes of March 21st. We'll have our second public comment then we'll have administrative reports, and then reports from elected officials, and then we will adjourn. There may be a possibility, given the hour, that we would go into the closed session to deal with personnel matters. Depends on what time it is. So the first item here is a public comment, our first public comment. Again, if you'd like to speak on any item other than what's coming up on the ordinances, you can come up now, and I would just say, there's two ordinances on introduction. One is deals with for sale signs, and I guess that's the only ordinance on introduction. There's another one? That's the only one, right. So if you'd like to speak, now would be the time to come up and give us your name and address.
Yeah. My name is Gideon Roman. I live on 32 Headley Place in Maplewood. Hi. I just want to ask, I've been asked by a friend of mine, which you all know, that owns part of the parking behind the village coffee shop, that whole section back there. And there was suggestion that maybe we ought to do a study about doing a multi-level parking garage back there to alleviate some of the parking problems we have in town. So I kept saying it's maybe not, maybe it's impossible to do it, but it might be worth looking at it, and maybe somebody has some ideas as how to utilize that space and become more efficient.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Gideon.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mark Slade, and I wanted to talk to the Township. Thank you for this opportunity regarding the sign ordinance. So I've been a realtor for 8 years, and of recent, I've had several conversations with a variety of people, including even somebody who stopped by when I was changing a sign out just the other day, telling me I'm going to get ticketed. And I just am curious as to, since we have an ordinance that is older in length of time and was created, as I understand it, under different circumstances, why all of a sudden there's this, I wouldn't say targeting, but there's this just overemphasis on signage when all we're trying to do is help one of the township's largest parts of the economy, which is real estate. I think we all are aware that, we have a hot town. We try to promote it in the most positive of light. And I'm just a little surprised and curious as to why there is so much angst, as it would appear. I've now been threatened 3 times, including yesterday, with violations and with tickets.
Threatened by whom?
Tom Glenn yesterday, because I had a banner in front of a house for an open house. I was threatened, and it was confusing because I dealt with 2 different individuals in the office, and Nancy was helpful in trying to help clarify, and there was a moratorium put. But first I was told I couldn't have 2 riders, then I was told I could have 2 riders, then I was told I couldn't have a coming soon rider, then I got threatened by one of the members of the code enforcement because I put a for sale rider and I still had a sign rider on it. And all I wanted to say is that, real estate has changed. It's all about the online world, and it's all about marketing properly for our respective Maplewood residents. If they've chosen to sell, we miss them, but hopefully we'll have a new family coming in, and we want to do it in the best possible light. And I have to say that, coming soon signs, if there's an issue because I understand it's an indeterminate length, then set a time frame. Say 2 weeks. Okay, but coming soon allows us for the listings to populate online, which brings us 98% of our traffic. Putting signs on that have a domain that redirects the client to a property website or to a video, that's helpful to selling the property. But if I'm limited to 2 signs and I have to put for sale sign, and let's say it's a member of a team, because nowadays realtors are using teams more and more often. I have 7 people on my team. I'm not going to put 7 names up, but I may have 2, mine and somebody else's, and I don't have space, and then I'm in violation. And it just would like to have an opportunity to have a voice be consulted with, or, it doesn't have to be just me, but I think we should have a few realtors come and talk to the township specifically on how the ordinances are currently being executed and what the purpose is and how we can work together to properly promote our Maplewood residents listings. That's all I want to say.
So let me just, I just want to respond this way. The people you're mentioning that quote unquote threatened you, these are people that work for the town.
Yeah.
They're code enforcement. They're
Yes.
property maintenance
Yeah,
enforcement.
it wasn't a personal threat.
No, they were informing you that you were in violation of an ordinance.
Because there was so much confusion, okay, I went into the office, into the township building department to speak to people, and it was fine. But then when I got the follow-up phone call, the tone was not
Okay.
nice. So if you.
So I apologize if the tone was not nice. I apologize, but I think what we conveyed to them is to inform the realtors that currently there's the law allows 2 things. One is to only have 1 rider in addition to the sign. And we're going to introduce an ordinance change based on requests from the realtors to allow 2 riders. So that's what's being proposed tonight, that you would have 2 riders. The second thing that you or others have asked us to look at is the ordinance that now says you can have 3 terms: for sale, for rent, and under contract. You want, and then open house is another item, but that's a whole special, that's separate. So on a regular sign, you can have for sale, for rent, and under contract, and then the under contract has to come off 3 days after the closing. No, you can't have sold. So that has been the law. Then the realtors took it upon themselves to add another term, coming soon. Didn't come to us before that was done. They just did that. We saw that and we responded and said, and after talking about it, we said, we have a very difficult time defining what soon is. So now you're putting out there, maybe it's 3 weeks.
Or 2. I said 2, actually, but.
Okay, or 2 weeks. So I guess what we have to understand is what's the difference. If it's 2 weeks out, why are we just putting a for sale sign as opposed to a coming soon?
Good question. I'm glad you asked it, because here's the situation. I put a for sale sign on that indicates to the people driving by that are coming from Brooklyn or New York or whatever, that the house is actively on the market and can be shown. A coming soon is we're waiting for the finishing touches on the interior, whether it's painting or staging, and we're letting the listing populate out in the online world, because it can take up to 10 days when I put a listing in the MLS for it to get out to the appropriate sites to build the traffic.
Okay, so then what I would suggest is if you can get some agreement from the realtor community that a coming soon sign, and quite honestly, I have not seen a lot of coming soons outside of this. Maybe there are, but there just seems to be a lot of coming soon. And we even saw it coming soonish.
Yeah, I saw that too. So I was actually envious. I thought it was cute. But.
Okay, so what I would suggest is if the realtors can come together with an agreement as to what soon means, then come back to us. You don't have to physically come back, but contact us, and we'll have a conversation about it. And lastly, about the feather sign, this is the Prospect Street house?
Yes.
Okay, not allowed.
Okay.
Okay, we just don't allow feather signs anywhere, and we, even on business districts, we take them down. And we just had a discussion with Avalon Bay because their thing was to put feather signs, and we said no. So
What's a feather?
feather signs are those, yeah, they flap, you know.
A lot of that has to do with ordinances that prohibit, like, things that distract drivers, that are moving.
Well, what it was, just to let you know, the banner was a replacement for balloons, which still had the distracting opportunity, and people felt that the balloons weren't as eco-friendly. So we thought the banner was a little bit more eco-friendly, town-friendly version of.
No, the feather sign is not allowed. And lastly, I think it would be unfair to say that we haven't listened to the realtor community, because if you remember about the open house signs, we did make an exception for, this is talking about equal treatment. We made an exception for realtors to allow signs to be on corners, directional signs.
And I remember that, and I appreciated that when I
So
was
we
in conversation.
we are sensitive to the community. And if you come back with a coming soon definition, we'll talk about it.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay? Thanks. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee at this time? Okay. We're going to now move into our Board of Health meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law, 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings in the bulletin board of the municipal building, and by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2017 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2016, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Adams? Here. Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Mr. Limerick?
Here.
Mr. McGee?
Here.
Mrs. Larry here. Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, whereas Section 7 provides that the Board of Health has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation at any meeting, and whereas desire the Maplewood Board of Health to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Maplewood Board of Health, Township of Maplewood, that it does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the Board of Health by the public, except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observation of the actions and discussions of the Board of Health at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Limbrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larry?
Yes, thank you, and welcome to the April Board of Health meeting. I'll entertain acceptance of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Limbrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larry?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Rowe?
Yeah, I want to mention a couple of upcoming programs. One is the Prescription Drug Take Back Day. I think you may all have all gotten flyers. I have some if you want another one. Anyone in the audience wants one to remind themselves, please see me or take one right now. The other is on April 22nd. We're doing our annual Earth Day river cleanup. And it actually is Earth Day, and we're going to have some educational programs, and we're going to have a picnic lunch.
What is the time?
10 to 2. So we're adding a picnic lunch this year to try to make it a little more fun.
Saturday, the 22nd.
And so to keep our volunteers happy, we expect a good group of volunteers. This last week, the Essex County Health Officers met with the Essex County Mosquito Control personnel to go over plans to work together during the summer for mosquito control. And I think so we're both acquainted with each other and we know what to do. And so that's only positive. And we'll be prepared in case there's any outbreak of any illness. I completed my annual report to the State Health Department, and that was emailed to everyone. If anyone from the public would like to see it, it's a public document, so you certainly can see it. And also I added kind of a page where we go back about 14 years on different health issues.
This is as of 2014, right?
It's up to date, except for a few categories which we couldn't get numbers on.
When I saw, I thought,
The one the couple of illnesses that stick out are Lyme disease and viral hepatitis C. Those are the ones that constantly are the most reported.
the one that we got emailed today starts at 2004, or stops at 2014.
Okay, I will re-email it then
Okay.
because we've
We haven't-
upgraded
yeah.
it to 2016.
We didn't get that.
I'm sorry for that.
Maybe it's an old edition.
It might have been a previous draft that I somehow sent out by email. And that's my report.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Rowe?
I do. Mr. Rowe, for the river cleanup, is there a rain date?
Pardon?
Is there a rain date for the river cleanup?
Rain or shine.
It's rain or shine, correct?
It's rain or shine, yes, unless it's a torrential rain. And
Lightning.
if it is, we'll probably look to reschedule, because I think we all want to do it, but I don't know what that date is right now.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have questions for Mr. Rowe? Mr. Rowe, I saw in your narrative that you mentioned the People for Animals proposal that we received for the trap, neuter, vaccinate, and release
Yes.
program. And I would like you to, when we discussed that, we talked about the possibility of your finding that money for that program in the animal control budget.
Yeah, the Animal Control Trust Fund is the money from the dog and cat licensing,
Okay.
and I don't think it's under caps. I think it's outside of caps is, I guess, what I want to say.
Oh, I see. So it doesn't contribute to it doesn't get posted to our 2% then. Okay. If I would, I'm going to ask you or ask my colleagues on the Board of Health if we might direct Mr. Rowe to discuss this with People for Animals going forward for this year. I would suggest that it shouldn't be the same amount because they would be starting a full quarter into the year. So perhaps we might be able to even negotiate a better rate for this year.
Yes.
Great.
So why don't you do that, and then you can come back to us with what you're able to find out.
Okay, I will do that.
Great, thank you.
But I did like your idea about having a fundraiser too. Maybe we can do both, to replenish the fund for future years.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I think we still need to have a good volunteer group. It's not just something the town should totally take possession of. We need our volunteers for this too.
Mr. Rowe, the cat is gone in my backyard, but I have this opossum now that's,
I don't know.
I think we trap, neuter, vaccinate, and release
in case
possum.
you're interested, that you have a trap neuter release opossum.
He only comes out at night, right?
Only at night.
Only at night.
You know, possum stew is just as good the second day as the first.
Oh, I'll leave that to you. Thanks a lot.
It's a Beverly Hillbillies joke.
And with that, we would invite the public to come and address the Board of Health. Is there anyone who would like to address the Board of Health? When you come forward, please give your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Claire Roberts. Okay. All right, is that good now? Okay. My name is Claire Roberts, and I live at 78 Woodside Road. And you know who I am, and you probably guess why I'm here. But I wanted to give you a little bit of information. You may have read an article last week in the Maplewood South Orange News Record about the Livingston Animal Shelter. And I wanted to give you a little bit of insight into why I don't really have a lot of confidence in the record of the Livingston Township in terms of actually following through on certain promises that they have made. And one of those is because Livingston residents who are volunteers with the Friends of the Livingston Animal Shelter also don't have confidence in that. I have recently been in touch with a Livingston resident and an attorney named Paul Binney, who does work with this group. And he came to me and he said that he doesn't really have confidence in it. And I asked, well, could you give me a statement that I could read out with your permission? And this is what he has given me.
You know what, we usually don't do this.
Okay.
Because you're reading on behalf of another person. This is a time when
Okay.
we get your comments. If you'd like to submit them, you can submit them, but we usually don't have someone read someone else's comments.
Okay, all right, that's fine, I understand. Okay, well, there are other reasons too, why I have a great deal of skepticism about this. Most of the repairs and improvements that have been made to the shelter have been paid for by volunteers. In that article, there was a photograph of a new ACO van for Livingston. It is a new van, and it was paid for entirely by donations, not by the town. In 2013 and 2014, the Livingston Police Department formally asked the town for funds to renovate or replace the shelter in 2 years in a row. And they said, quote, currently the township's animal shelter is outdated and the space is inadequate for the township and our shared service town's needs. Ideally, a new shelter would be in place by the end of 2013. And as you can see, that hasn't happened. In 2011, $75,000 was allocated for the animal shelter in Livingston's capital budget. And my understanding is that only $10,000 of that has been spent. Approximately $65,000 remains in the account, unspent. And volunteers have told me that they have asked for 3 consecutive years for that amount to be spent, but it remains in the account. I have copies of all of these documents, and I would be happy to send them to the town clerk for you to review later. Now, Captain Marshutz referred to renovations that are going to be made to a building that adjoins the current shelter building in Livingston. This building that he refers to was actually condemned by the town of Livingston about 4 or 5 years ago as unfit for human habitation. So my guess is that bringing that up to code is going to be quite expensive, along with all of the other renovations that need to be done to bring the shelter into compliance with state regulations. So given this record, anyway, I have a healthy dose of skepticism that this is going to come about because Livingston would be presenting their own residents with a pretty hefty bill, or they would have to be seeking some other way to fund it. That seems pretty unlikely. If their plan is to contract out sheltering arrangements with other townships to pay for it, they have a very long way to go because South Orange hasn't even entered into an agreement with them yet. They just have a month-to-month arrangement with them at this time. So thank you for listening to that. The question I would like to end with, though, is could you please give us an update on where the conversations do stand with South Orange? Because I think last time my understanding was that you were going to be having those conversations very soon. Thank you.
Mr. Manning, can you give an update?
There has been no change in the situation since the last time we reported that.
Thank you.
Hear that? Check and make sure she's here.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the Board of Health? Being no one?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier? Yes, thank you.
Okay, we're back to the main agenda. And by the way, if anyone would like agendas, we have them up here. Feel free to come on up and grab whatever you'd like. We're on item number 7, ordinance on final passage.
Mr. Mayor, item number 7, ordinance on final passage. Ordinance number 2850-17 is an ordinance to regulate temporary trailers within the Township of Maplewood. This ordinance will regulate temporary trailers within the Township of Maplewood.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance which regulates the storage containers, these pods? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. Mrs. Larry, can we get a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Another ordinance on final?
Item 8, Mayor, ordinance on final 2851-17 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 123 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Municipal Pool. This ordinance will eliminate the college student category and add a weekend-only Saturday and Sunday category.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who wants to speak on this ordinance, which changes the fees at the pool to allow a Saturday, Sunday, weekend category? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. Mr. McGee, can we get a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
No. Number 9.
Item 9, ordinance on final passage. Mayor, ordinance 2852-17 is an ordinance amending an ordinance establishing and defining user charges in connection with the collection and treatment of wastewater, sanitary sewer. This ordinance will confirm the annual dwelling unit rate for sanitary sewer charges at $184 and will impose a $10 deferred maintenance charge in 2017 for a total of $194.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance? Seeing no one, I'll ask myself for a motion. I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
This ordinance, as said, will retain the $185 sewer charge, but for 2017, there'll be an additional $10 maintenance charge to deal with what's called infiltration. This is rainwater getting into the sewer lines. And so we'll be replacing manholes and doing some other work to try to limit the infiltration of this water so that we're not charged an additional fee in the future by the Joint Meeting Sewer Authority. Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams? Yes. Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Number 10.
Item 10, Mayor, ordinance on final passage 2853-17 is an ordinance establishing parking regulations for Maplewood Township parking lot number 11. This ordinance will establish parking regulations for Maplewood parking lot number 11 located on Springfield Avenue.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. Ms. Adams?
Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. Item number 11.
Item number 11, Mayor, is an ordinance on final passage, ordinance number 2854-17, An ordinance limiting use of gas-powered leaf blowers within the Township of Maplewood. This ordinance will regulate the use of gas-powered leaf blowers within the Township of Maplewood.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. We'll now have a public hearing on the leaf blower ordinance. If anyone would like to speak on it, we ask you to come up, give us your name and address or your affiliation, and we're going to limit comments to 3 minutes per person.
My name is Gideon Roman, 32 Headley Place in Maplewood. One of the things, I'm not sure it's in the ordinance, I don't think it is, that we might amend it at one time, is that the people working with the leaf blower should have some sort of understanding that they're, making a lot of noise in a particular neighborhood. And I've noticed that a lot of times, there are workers who walk around with leaf blowers, sometimes there are 3 of them together, trying to push away with air, half a dozen leaves. I mean, it's just like, you see nothing there, and there were just like 3 blowers. We were home one night, my wife's not feeling well, and she was besides herself. And I think that the owners of those companies should tell their workers or their foremen to advise them they should use that judiciously. Even though they're allowed to use it, they should not abuse the right to use it. So I think it's real critical, because a lot of times these blowers are used. I look around, there's no leaves there, but somehow they manage to, spend their time having the leaves, having the blowers go all the time without stopping them. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roman.
Good evening. I'm Victor Gallo. I live at 121 Maplewood Avenue. I happen to be home, working at home today because of derailment issues. And I was sitting, trying to work at home, and there was an annoying buzzing noise that I honestly did not know what it was. I looked around. There were no leaf blowers in the area. I didn't even suspect it was leaf blowers. And I went to pick up my child at Jefferson School, and I walked a half block down the block and then a whole block in the other direction. And I saw a landscaping company with 3 gas-powered leaf blowers run at the same time, and then 1 push leaf blower. This was the noise that I was hearing so clearly from my house a block and a half away. So I don't profess to know what all the answers are, but that is certainly a problem when I can clearly hear a noise a block and a half away, and there are 4 leaf blowers clearly above the current 65 decibel ordinance limit. This is a problem that we have to deal with. Now, we have a law on the books that should have been able to deal with this problem, but there's been 0 compliance. These gasoline power leaf blowers are clearly over the 65 dBA limit. And I have to say, there's also a problem that there's been no code enforcement on this because of the lack of resources. So I see that there's no other choice but to have a ban on commercial leaf blowers where you have this swarming effect that you don't have with individual homeowner leaf blowers. 1 person using 1 leaf blower at a time that should be below 65 decibels. So I think this is the fundamental distinction and the reason why I think this ban makes sense. And I would urge the Township Committee to vote for final passage of the leaf blower ordinance. And I thank Nancy Adams for her advocacy on this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo. Anyone else?
Andy Zeitlin, 3 Woodland Road. I find that the ordinance is written to be not fair, and I don't think it's based upon the facts. So I understand the intent. There may be an issue with noise, and perhaps it could be written where there is a time frame during the week when commercial landscaping companies can use blowers, but I don't think it's fair for homeowners that employ commercial landscaping companies to be forced to pay more money just because their methods are perceived to be loud, but I really don't believe that the data is there. I think that if you compare different people's homes and different times of day, you would probably, and I noticed this myself, that certain times of day you see 5 or 6 people all working on their lawns at the same time, and you probably get the same decibel effect of cumulative machines all at once. So I think, just to rephrase, I think it's unfair, and I seriously doubt there's a safety issue. I don't think there's any data on that. So I would reconsider perhaps looking at either a time frame so that we deal with the fairness issue, or perhaps something to do with numbers of machines at the same time. I don't know how I really don't know how you would to find compliance on that, and I'm sure that, as was already stated, it's very difficult to enforce the decibel level as it is. So I question how you're ever going to enforce this as written, as well as the existing law. So I would rise against this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Paul Mendelson. I'm with the National Association of Landscape Professionals. I'm here to speak against the proposed ordinance. The way that it's drafted, it seems like it is proposing a solution to a problem in a manner that's not going to address the problem at hand. I would really recommend that instead of implementing a ban that could have significant impact on those who use leaf blowers commercially, to work with the impacted industries, landscape professionals and others, to try to come up with a solution that is amenable to the community, but that also takes into consideration the many ways that leaf blowers are of use to those who use them professionally. I think one of the issues is that sometimes people, as has been mentioned, there were a number of anecdotal observations about leaf blowers being used in an inefficient fashion, where people are walking around and using them at multiple times. I think that education is a really important component of this, that a leaf blower doesn't have to be used at maximum power, that a leaf blower can be used very efficiently if the person is trained on how to do it properly. So what I would recommend for the community is to work with the professionals to look at some solutions that other communities have used, such as having a certification program within the community in which leaf blowers have to be registered, so that you're assured that the ones that are used for commercial properties or by commercial entities meet that 65 decibel threshold. I would also recommend that in order for someone to work within the community, you might consider that they have to be commercially approved through a training program. There's a number of different ways that we can address this situation that have been tested by communities throughout the country that really get to the nature of this problem, as opposed to taking a capricious stand that has an impact on professionals that, as I said, probably won't end up in the result that you're looking for. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Myro. I've been retained. I'm a lawyer with Chiesa, Shahinian, and John Tomasi in West Orange. We were retained by the New Jersey Landscape Contractors Association. First, I was just handed this a few minutes ago. This is signed letters from, I believe, about 50 residents opposing the ban. So if I could just leave this with Mr. Desiderio, I'd appreciate it. Just a couple of things. I think that I'd like to echo some of the sentiments that have been voiced already, which is I think that there is a reasonable way to implement reasonable restrictions upon the use of gas-powered leaf blowers within the township. The Landscape Contractors Association, their position is that this ordinance does not do that, and that goes far beyond what is permissible and would not achieve the goal that the committee is looking to achieve on behalf of the residents. In order for any ordinance to be legal and enforceable, it must bear some rational relation to further a legitimate interest. The stated interest here is that gas-powered leaf blowers create a health hazard and annoyance to the area residents. There's no support for that statement. It's just a statement, a conclusory statement. But then in order to do that, what it does is it completely bans the use of gas-powered leaf blowers only for commercial entities. So therefore, during the same exact period of time by which a commercial entity is not permitted to use a gas-powered leaf blower, residents can come out in force, using an extreme example, and use their gas-powered leaf blowers from, I think it's 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. That certainly would not achieve or any sort of health benefit or limit any sort of annoyance associated with the residents. That type of discrimination is really what it is, and there have been several cases raised in different contexts where that type of ordinance or regulation is simply not enforceable. The other aspect about the ordinance that is prohibited is the fact that it is regulating aspects of the gas-powered leaf blowers and the individuals that operate them that are already regulated by the federal government pursuant to the OSHA regulations with respect to the personal protective and health and safety equipment. The township, our position is that the township certainly cannot regulate that and then collect fines when that is under the auspices of the OSHA regulations. Same goes for the use of the gas-powered leaf blowers as far as the emissions and the operation of the equipment. Those are regulated by the EPA, the decibel levels and whatnot. Simply put, there is a way, we believe, to achieve the goal of the township. Our position is that this is not it, and we would welcome the opportunity to continue the discussion with respect to this, and we are urging the committee not to adopt this ordinance in its current iteration this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jimmy Conrad, 35 Roosevelt Road. Well, I would just like to say to the landscapers and the representatives who are here, where were you guys 14 years ago? And where have you been since then when we have had this ordinance on the books, restricting leaf blower use to 65 decibels? This was an ordinance that was a total compromise. I was involved in the initial effort to have it passed. I wanted a total ban. It drove me crazy that the Township Committee went to extreme lengths to consult then with landscapers in arriving at that compromise. And there was a 14-year period of, again, extreme efforts to enforce this ordinance. I was involved in it as well. I kept a stack of ordinances by my front door. I handed them out to crew after crew, Anthony's, Carmine's, county to county, Oriental Gardeners. Week after week, I met the same, blank looks. I called in, reports of people who were in violation. There was just total flouting of this ordinance. And if you're able to rally everyone tonight to come out and complain and say, why can't we be reasonable and, go back to that, where have you been? Why didn't you say, wake up, guys, let's be a professional association, let's respect what the Township of Maplewood is trying to do, let's have some consideration for the number of people in this town who are bothered by this ordinance. So, and anyway, you didn't do it, and now I feel like you have no credibility. There's no reason, The Township Committee also this time, as you know, consulted at length and over many months with landscapers in coming up with this regulation. And if you want objective standards of noise levels, I suggest that objective evidence exists of intrusive levels of noise which would justify much more restrictive ordinances than the one the Township Committee is proposing. Again, this is the summer. This is the growing season we're talking about. May 15th to September 30th. If there are leaves on the ground, then you have bigger problems of like, why are there leaves on the ground? Maybe you need to, replant some shrubs or something. Anyhow, if we were to regulate, if we were going to use OSHA standards, which says that 85 decibels is the level at which a person should wear ear protection, I feel I should be able to be in my own yard throughout the year without wearing ear protection. And if I'm not, it's an infringement of my freedom to use and enjoy my own property if I can't do that. So the Township Committee could decide to protect that standard and impose it year-round. And I think there'd be, that could be seen as a defensible standard. And if they did, and I'm happy to show you with objective data, because it is easy to document how loud leaf blowers of different decibel levels are at different distances and how loud they are in combination. I can show the most that would be allowed is one 75 decibel blower per lot if they were to adapt that standard. And so I can say that if this extremely reasonable ordinance does not go through, that's what I'm going to go after. That's my next plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Nelson Lake, President, New Jersey Landscape Contractors Association. I just wanted to recall a story that you told about a month ago about your tree contractor coming to your property, and that you couldn't foresee how he could possibly clean your property properly without the use of a backpack blower. So if you can remember that story, I wish you would dwell on that a little bit and try to understand where we come from and why we need the tools that we need to provide the services to your residents. Number one. Number two, thinking about this particular ban, who's to say that a road contractor that's using jackhammers or heavy equipment around neighborhoods that do road repairs, that doesn't annoy people, and all of a sudden now you create an ordinance to ban those types of equipment. So I think it's really unfair that you're basically targeting all the contractors who need these tools to operate their business and earn a living, just as well as you guys have certain tools that you utilize for your businesses and for your companies or for your employers. It may not be as distracting, but it's still a tool that's necessary for us to be able to continue our business. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Carrie Gordon, 34 Gerard Place, and I think there's a major focus on the noise level, but another major concern for leaf blowers is air pollution. They blow the dust, the feces, the pesticides, the pollen, the fertilizers into the air, and people have to breathe them, not to mention the emissions from the two-stroke engines. And so that's my major issue with the leaf blowers. And if I see someone not wearing a face mask and breathing apparatus, should I contact OSHA? You guys need to regulate and develop more environmentally friendly practices, and you'll grow your businesses here in Maplewood, guaranteed.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Charlie Bravaco from PNP. Yeah, I've been here for the whole 14 years that we've been doing this.
Speaking of my,
Yep. I've been here for the whole 14 years that we've been talking about this. And I mean, I've been talking to a lot of people the past couple weeks. They've been coming into my shop and we've been talking to, this is one man that just came in today
that we were talking about this, and he is so far against having blowers. And we just started talking and just trying to understand each other about the blowers and what the plus and the minus we talked. He was telling me that he has pictures of these 4 backpack blowers, and I saw it. He showed me pictures, 4 guys with backpack blowers. And I'm, that's kind of ridiculous. Some people don't know how to use it, and I agree. But it was actually in the middle of the leaf season, and I could almost understand it. He says, it was 94 decibels, and I'm like, all right. He goes, I would love to see the homeowners, see what I see, because he's home all day. He's home during the week. And I understood that. And I said to him, 65 decibels. I could honestly put it sitting right outside your door and you wouldn't hear it. He goes, I'd be perfectly fine with that. And, we just talked. We just had a nice conversation after a while. I go, tell me, what do you think is going to happen if you do have this ban on blowers? And he looked at me. I go, you know what? They're going to find another way. So, what they're going to do? They're going to take their lawnmowers and turn the lawnmowers facing in. Well, a lawnmower is about 95 decibels. So you're going to listen to a lawnmower going back and forth. So did you win? No. And he looked at me. He was right. I go, put the 65 decibels on your neighbor's property. You're going to do okay. The only problem is now how do we police this? Okay, I got an idea for you, but you've got this way of bringing. That you have everybody for the landscapers coming into town. They're registering. Something confused me. They register. They're still asking for 65 decibels. You don't even have anything going for 65 decibels, but. If you ask each of the landscapers to kind of like snitching on each other, you've got a bigger group of people that are to keep the blowers. You've got a bigger group of landscapers that would, let's say, snitch on each other, but that's the way of putting it. They'd rather have the blowers than have it being taken away from them. So let them all work together to get to get rid of the people who are not. So sure enough, they'll make the phone call or whatever has to happen. I don't know all the ruling or how you want to do it, but let the landscapers help you get rid of the people who are not going to use the low decibel blowers. If you really heard the 65 decibels, it's not bad. I mean, seriously, you could sit inside and think it's a vacuum cleaner that's running outside. So it's kind of like trying to make everybody, but now you have to go back to your landscapers as they're registering. Are you going to help us this time? Because otherwise we're banning it for sure. I don't know all the answers. I don't know how you want to do it, because policing is going to be the hardest thing. You know it, I know it, even when you ban them. How are you going to police it? I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a hard thing. But if you're having another partner, the landscapers, there's going to be a few that think they can get away with it. But fine. That's the one that you're going to have to stop the
Your
fine.
time is up. Sorry, your time is up.
That's fine. I mean,
Okay.
you got to try doing something different. That's all I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Castronova. I'm the executive editor, publisher of Gardner News. I spoke a couple weeks ago, and since I've listened to the proceedings of this committee, I've decided to run a story in the Gardner News, which is in the cover of this month's edition. One thing that I'd like to suggest to the Township Committee, that if you do go forward with this ordinance, I've researched pricing of the battery-operated blowers, and to replace the gasoline-operated blower, which costs roughly about $550, for the landscapers to go out and replace them, you're looking at a cost of about $1,400 per blower to go to a gasoline-operated blower. To me, that's a little extreme to ask the landscapers right off the bat to go out and spend that kind of money immediately when it's been a really rough winter. The guys don't have a lot of money because there was lack of snow, and to ask them to go out and try and spend that kind of money when they might be replacing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blowers, depending on the size of their company, that's an exorbitant amount of money. I know when I've covered a lot of legislation and events down in Trenton, when the state legislature passes laws, they allow a grace period for the laws to go into effect so everyone can be notified, everyone has time to comply with the law. So if you do go forward with this ordinance, is it possible to put a added time into it so it gives the guys enough time and gals to go out and find the money, borrow the money, and go out and actually buy electric or battery-operated blowers to ease the hardship that they're going to have to go through to do this? Because it is an extreme cost that they're going to have to incur. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Norman, we'd like to go through everybody first before we have any repeats. Is there anyone else who wants to address the Township Committee?
Good evening, Township Committee. My name is William J. Steinbrown. I live at 141 Jacoby Street, Maplewood. I'm here to urge you to pass this ban. Put this in place. This is very important. It's not just about noise. Noise is a big factor, but there's a lot more that goes with the use of these leaf blowers. It's the detrimental impact on health. Others have mentioned about feces being blown around, pesticides. There's all kinds of things that blow around in the air that have a negative impact on people. Children who breathe more than we do, elderly, others, and the way these leaf blowers are used. As you drive down the street, if it's a mild day, you got your car windows open, you've got to roll them up because they keep using the leaf blowers regardless if you're driving down the street or not. Many times as I'm driving down the street, they're blowing the leaves. They don't care. They're blowing them into the street. They're blowing them around. These things are not good for pedestrians, whether they're walking on the same side of the street, the opposite side of the street. There's a detrimental health issue here. More than 400 communities in California have banned leaf blowers in some stages or another. Provinces in Canada, the whole country of Israel. Many states in this country have towns and cities that have banned the use of leaf blowers or limited their use because there's study on study on study about the detrimental impact. The EPA has studies. OSHA has studies. There have been a lot of different college studies, a lot of different medical studies, and they all support the same thing, the detrimental impact on people's health with the use of the leaf blowers. So therefore, I urge you again, not just because of the noise. The noise is a big factor. And let's put it this way, if noise wasn't a factor, look at the walls, the barriers along the highway from the sound from traffic, right? There's an impact from noise on people. And then people are telling you they can hear them from a block and a half away. When I'm driving down the street or in my area and I hear them, you've got 2 or 3 of them going at the same time. The impact of these, the noise. So as far as I'm concerned, what you're doing is the right thing, and I urge you again to implement this ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the Township Committee?
How you doing? Family business in town for the past
Say your name.
Ryan Carew. Family business in town for the past 60 years. I can understand a little bit about the leaf blower ban, but I'm also on the side with the landscapers. Tree business, you take down certain trees. Certain trees, sawdust turns acidic. It'll burn your lawn. So for the people who want this ban, you pay somebody to take down your tree, sawdust is in the ground, you can't get it up. Now you're gonna have to spend $1,500 to a landscaper to have that lawn replaced. So what you're doing is I don't see any point in this, and that's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Are we doing?
You spoke again. You spoke already, right?
I did, yes.
You have to wait a minute. Sure. If there's anyone who hasn't spoken yet.
Hello there. Jonathan Trank, representing A&J Landscape Design. So I'll be as short as I can because we've run through all the details over and over again. I am for, because most of my residential lawn maintenance clients have not complained about it for the lawn maintenance. So I have emailed all of you. I haven't heard, I've heard back, but nobody has it interacted. But I think the complete ban is lack of a word, like overkill. What everyone is, I would assume, is mostly complaining about is when there's lawn maintenance during the summer, where at some point, because we live in the suburbs, the lots are not huge. At some point, you can always hear somebody using it for lawn maintenance. But for the one-time service that a tree's being taken down, or I'm coming to put down chemical on the lawn, or I trim somebody's shrubs, during the time period that you're banning it, it may be one time per home. So I just think that it's, it's a little bit overkill, but the reality of it is we're in the suburbs. If you didn't want to hear something going on at your neighbor's home, you should have 3 acres. I have to deal with it. I have to deal with it at my own home. The person who lives next door to me hires a single person show. He's there on Saturday by himself. It takes him 4 hours to cut the lawn. I don't know how but anyway, I think that there's a compromise besides the complete ban. I think there's a way to enforce the 65 decibel. If the municipality gets a certain type of tag that goes on the blower, it's easy for anybody in the municipality to stop by and say, if that's the blower with the tag, then it's okay. But I just think it's overkill to the other services besides lawn maintenance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee? Okay, Mr. Roman?
No, we have.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name's Lillian Hawkins. I live in Maplewood. If I could afford to live on 3 acres, I'd be delighted, but unfortunately, that's not an option for my family. I'm a registered nurse, currently at home full-time with my children who are 10 months and 3 years. The noise is a problem for us. During nap time, it's annoying. We want to keep our windows open in the nice weather, and we have to close them and run the air conditioning because then it's too hot. Additionally, as a nurse and a mom, I'm concerned about the health effects. I walk around with my kids, and even if the guys are really respectful, and they usually are when they see a woman with a baby and a little kid coming, the cloud of toxic stuff hovers in the air. And there's nothing that anybody can do about that once it's been kicked up. I mean, I can go across the street, but sometimes it blows. And I'm also worried about the gas emissions. I feel like that's something that we have to do everything we can about these days. My kids are going to be here for a long time after me, and that's a big priority for me. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Joe Strupp, 7 Yale Street, and editor of MapleWoodian.com. really don't have an opinion either way on this. But I do have a question I think some people have raised. If one of the problems is the 65 decibel level is not being enforced, what is to make people think that this ban will be more enforced? And if it is going to be enforced in a way that would work, why not I just wonder why one ban might get enforced better than another, if it's the same machinery you're talking about, if anyone could respond to that. Thank you.
Sure. I mean, the analogy would be if we say you can't drive on Valley Street during certain hours, then any car that's on Valley Street during those hours is in violation. But if we have speed limits, then we have to have someone with a radar gun sitting there all the time. The issue is, if, code enforcement, it's much easier for someone to say, hey, there's a leaf blower at this area, or for the code enforcement people to hear a leaf blower and go check it out, than it is for someone to get out a decibel meter. The other thing is that the prior ordinance just wasn't being followed. It was being flaunted. There was widespread disregard and violation.
But this could be flaunted too, couldn't it?
It certainly could, and that's part of the reason why we're also increasing the fines, which is a suggestion that actually came from some of the landscapers that the subcommittee met with, that the ordinance, not only was it difficult to enforce, but it also had no teeth. And people would take their chances. And we certainly had enforcement last year during the pilot program. And I don't know how many citations were issued, but there were definitely citations issued, more than in prior years. And the response we got from the public to the pilot program was that there was substantial reduction in the use of leaf blowers, in noise, and also in the quality of life and the air quality in their neighborhoods.
And I know it's beyond just the noise. There's also the health factor that people brought up. But it was thought that the ban did a better job last summer than the initial decibel limitation had done before that.
Yes, and we don't have we don't have the specific air quality data in Maplewood with respect to that ban. But what we do have is decades and decades of dozens and studies of professional and academic studies that back up the fact that these two-stroke gas-powered leaf blowers do present a health hazard, do create environmental problems and declines in air quality. So, I don't think we have to assume that the air in Maplewood is any different than the air in the places where those studies have been performed.
Right. I just would hope that if one ordinance was not followed or enforced well, that another one with the same machinery would be. But you're right, it's a different type of ordinance, but it just raised the question of if one wasn't being enforced, we would hope that the other would be. And it sounds like, I think we got it. We're going to enforce it. Thank you.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee?
Tom Venezia, Springfield, New Jersey. You know who I am. I've been here before. I was curious, is the golf course exempt from this?
Okay, I can address that. With regard to, and I've gotten questions a lot over the last week to sort of clarify whether this applies to the country club, whether this applies to the Board of Education.
Also Winchester, it's a large parcel.
So, yeah, the school's the Board of Education property. And the answer is, if you read the ordinance, it applies to commercial entities doing the leaf blowing. So if the Board of Education, if the schools, if Winchester Gardens, if the golf course is having their own personnel.
But they are for hire people, just like, like we are for hire.
And if that's the case, then it applies to them, And, you know, in my view, and I'm only one member of 5, but if the Board of Education or if the Country Club or Winchester Gardens is having a third-party commercial entity perform the leaf blowing on their property and they violate this ordinance, they're getting summoned and they're getting the $500 fine.
But the people that work at the golf course, they're employed by the golf course, but they don't live at the golf course and it's not their property. They're for hire just like we are for hire. It's kind of semantics. They're giving them a free pass and yet you're holding us to much higher standards. That's 80 acres. Winchester Gardens is probably another 40 acres. Okay, so you know what? You're giving them a free pass to do what they want. And they use blowers all day long, all summer long. I mean, they blow off the greens, they blow off the fairways. They're continually using, and these are tractor-driven blowers. So, you know, I don't think it's fair. I mean, it's beyond the fact that the homeowners can still use them. Now, we're talking about large parcels of property that you kind of ran around. Okay, and I don't think that's right at all. Okay, and I don't think, and like I said, it's a little different if they own the property and they were the ones going out there doing it. So if a homeowner wanted to hire me at a rate per hour and say, okay, you work for me now, then it would be okay if I worked on their property, wouldn't it? They're willing to pay me per diem $10 an hour. I mean, you're going to hire for me, then it'd be okay then, wouldn't it?
No.
I'd like to see the Country Club be banned as well.
Why?
I mean,
If the homeowner would pay my
So
taxes.
we're not going to have a debate. You made your point. Do you have anything else you want to say?
My other point was the fact that OSHA does require the use of hard hats and heavy equipment. And all day long, DPW is out there with loaders and whatnot in the street, and none of them have them on. No one polices them, and yet you want to police us. You're going to tell us that our guys have to ear protectors on, ours have to have dust masks on. DPW, nobody polices them. They're out there violating these things all day long. And I could easily call up OSHA tomorrow and say, hey, listen.
Please do.
Township,
Please do.
Yeah.
Because if our employees aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, then
OSHA's the one, but if OSHA's the one policing it, why is Maplewood now taking over the responsibility of policing it? OSHA's really the power that does it. If you have a problem with us, call OSHA and let OSHA deal with it. Let OSHA come and see us. But why is it now our responsibility to make sure that our employees who get all this equipment, and then we're responsible if they don't wear it and if they don't use it, we cannot be with them. We're not babysitters. If they don't have a seatbelt on when they drive and they get a ticket, it's their ticket, not my ticket. The officer gives it to them, not to the company. So
Okay.
why then should I be responsible for it?
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Travis Perone from Snow and Ice Consultants of New Jersey. You had said earlier that the township hasn't been enforcing the previous ordinance. Shouldn't that be on the township, not the landscapers? It should be on the township's part to enforce that ordinance.
It should be the landscaper who should obey the law.
This is the time for you to speak. This is the time for him to speak. Go ahead.
But the point being, you need to hire more people or do whatever you need to do to enforce the ordinance.
Yeah.
You enforce the ordinances on everything else. Why can't you do it on this?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Mr. Roman, go ahead.
Again, Gideon Roman, 32 Headley Place. One of the things that occurred to me when we talk about all these things is rakes. Nobody's talked about rakes. I've used rakes for as long as I've been in Maplewood, and I think it takes me just as long to clean my lawn than it does if I have, which I do have, and I don't even use an electric blower. So where are the rakes? I think it's a matter of the people who do the work, the companies that do the work, to be more considerate. And whenever there is an opportunity to use a rake, use the rake. Don't use it's the only thing that seems to be a problem with is the leaf blowers. Don't use the leaf blowers if you don't need to. Use the rakes. That's it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out a couple of the uses of.
Say your name again, I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
Paul Mendelson, National Association of Landscape Professionals. One of the reasons that leaf blowers are used in preference to rakes is because a rake is not efficient on a driveway or an impervious surface. That's an important thing when it comes to environmental safety, because if the granules from fertilizer, for instance, get onto that surface. The leaf blower allows the service provider to blow those granules back onto the lawn. If they aren't blown back onto the lawn, they often will run off the driveway into the gutter, and the first rain that comes along, you have runoff from the fertilizer. When you try to clean that up with a broom, when you try to clean that up with a rake, you just spread the pellets all over the place as opposed to putting them back into the lawn. So I think that that's something that should be taken into consideration. The other thing, you know, we keep on hearing about environmental air quality. The EPA precludes local communities and states from creating their own laws related to air quality. And the same thing goes with OSHA as far as worker safety provisions go. So what we think is a much more prudent course is to, and I wasn't here 14 years ago, obviously, to work with the impacted community to try to come up with a solution that is based on proper use and training, courteous training, as well as more stringent enforcement of that 65 decibel limit, which could include ensuring that the equipment is actually registered with the city in order to be properly used. And if it's not registered with the city, then it would be considered in violation, and then you could use the fines that have been proposed for the seasonal ban. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm sorry, have you spoken already?
Yeah, let her speak first.
Yeah, sorry.
Good evening. My name is Vanessa DeBona. I'm a landscape contractor. I have one client that we do use rakes for, and her property is about the size of this area here. So the $50 per man hour to do her property does not impact her greatly. But I think that there are very few townspeople here tonight. There's a huge group of people that cannot rake their own lawns, or nor would they be able to financially pay for someone to rake their lawn, because it's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 times greater than the normal rate that a company charges. And to be honest with you, the competition is great, and we try to keep our prices as low as we can, and it's a very low profit margin. So I think the end point would be you would see fewer companies here servicing those in the community that would really need their help.
Thank you. Anyone else? You can come back up.
Andy Zeitlin, 3 Woodland Road. I really think this is an issue of fairness. The way it's written, if I understand that there's a difference between the prohibition of homeowners versus commercial. And I don't see how you can enforce just for commercial. I think it's incredibly unfair unless you do it based upon a schedule. That's what homeowners are expected to do for issues associated with sound. And perhaps that's the best way to do it for commercial users of any equipment. It shouldn't just be leaf blowers. It should be based upon noise. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else want to say anything on this ordinance? Going once, going twice. Okay, we're going to close the hearing. At this point, I'm going to ask Ms. Adams to make a motion.
Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole, and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
And we'll start our discussion. Ms. Adams?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. This has been a long process, going through a lot of research. There's an op-ed recently published in local, on the Village Green, that was written by a member of the subcommittee who did some research on this. It could have been written before the research was done and all the committee meetings we had, because the stances that he took did not vary at all from his first conversations. And much of it was untrue, especially the parts where some of the conversations we've had up here and the discussion about health effects, environmental impact, impact to water, impact to land, impact to wildlife, impact to pets, impact to children, seniors, are in fact documented across the country and in fact in other places in the world. We do need to take some control. I'm sad that we have to go through this. I did not run for office with the plan on spending countless hours and months of my life learning about two-stroke engines, about getting frustrated and literally stopping landscape companies and workers last summer from breaking the law, and then finding them 2 blocks away, taking the same equipment out and doing it again. So the better practices, I heard comments from knowledgeable people in this business saying a broom is less effective in removing fertilizer, for example. The reality is that so much of the topsoil is being blown off all of these properties to the point where the ground is hard. The fertilizer is not even getting into the ground anymore because it's so hard. And that's why so much of it is on the sidewalks and, frankly, by the landscaping workers being blown into the streets, into our catch basins, and making its way into the water supply, which, by the way, does not just stop in Maplewood. The water supply is the water supply, and it all leads to the same places. This, to me, is a very scary way we're affecting our earth, and for what? We're affecting our air, we're affecting for perfectly trimmed grass, perfectly clean sidewalks and driveways, when those grass clippings should go back into the grass to feed it. We're removing natural components off of the lawns and then buying chemicals to put back on the lawns to feed them, instead of just leaving the natural feed on the lawns and in the landscape beds for the winter. So there's so many issues, and I know we've gone over it over and over again. I worry about a lot of this. And when we talk about the EPA and we talk about the federal government at the moment, I have no confidence at all that we won't be, we've already started allowing certain pesticides to be used again that have already been proven by science. I know science is actually real. And we're on a local level doing what we can to ensure that the residents in this community don't suffer from quality of life issues on a daily and hourly basis, health issues, hearing, breathing, drinking clean water, having clean property. It goes on and on. If it were up to me, this would be an annual year-round ban for residents, for commercial, for all, on the gas-powered leaf blowers. I would urge many of you to start divesting your equipment and start investing in what a good portion of this community would like to see, that being a green way to maintain their lawns. A lot of people know they can't do it themselves, but that doesn't mean you have to pollute the air and the water and the properties. So, Mayor, I would like to see this pass, and I look forward to hearing from my colleagues. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First I'd like to say as a matter of policy, while not year-round, I would like, my preference would be for the ban to apply to individuals as well as commercial entities, but there's not the votes to do that. That being said, this ordinance is the product of roughly 10 or 11 months of significant work by the Township Committee, of months of work by a subcommittee that included Deputy Mayor Adams and myself, and many township residents, some of whom have spoken here tonight and at prior meetings. And it also included consultation with several landscapers. And we've also considered significant environmental research. We've considered the experience of residents and landscapers who've come to speak with us at these meetings, who've written to us, emails, letters. And I think that our role here is to promote in the health and welfare of our community. And there is substantial justification for the adoption of this ordinance. I think that the distinction that the ordinance draws, the reason why I'm still going to vote for this ordinance, even though it may not go as far as I would like it to, is not only because I believe the perfect is often the enemy of the good, but also because I think the distinctions it draws are rational and they're just. There's ample reasons for this ordinance. I referred earlier to the success of the pilot program that we had last summer. Also, the frequency and volume of use by the landscapers and other commercial users of leaf blowers is so substantially beyond that of individual homeowners that I think there's a rational and just distinction between the two groups. I referred earlier to the widespread disregard and violation of the prior ordinance, as well as the difficulty of enforcing that ordinance that's currently on the books, the 65 decibels. This committee has debated and considered, as did the subcommittee before it, alternatives to this ordinance, and they either do not achieve the purpose we're looking to achieve, or will not offer the ability to enforce that this one does. We have a responsibility, and we certainly have the legal entitlement to use our judgment to protect the quality of life and public health of people here in Maplewood. That's a legitimate interest, and it's furthered by this ordinance. And as I stated, this ordinance rationally furthers all of these purposes, and I plan to vote in favor.
Anyone else?
I think the comments of Mr. Lindbergh as well as Ms. Adams kind of said everything that needs to be said. I think the bottom line is that in order to protect our people and our environment, that this is the right ordinance. I want to vote yes tonight.
You okay?
Yes, no, I think everything that I would want to say has been already.
Okay. So I think we need to be clear that what we're talking about tonight is a prohibition of gas-powered leaf blowers between May 15th and September 30th. We're not talking about leaf blowers. We're not talking about any restriction on leaf blowers outside of that time. And other than the hours that we've prescribed here in the ordinance, but as far as the equipment, there's no restriction. I was the mayor 14 years ago when this compromise was put together. And I remember a number of landscapers, some of you may or may not have been in the room. I remember Charlie was here, I think he left already, but Charlie was here in the back trying to broker a deal. And as Ms. Conrad said, that was not the initial goal of the residents coming in. They wanted to ban it. And we said we had a responsibility to balance the desires of the residents and the need of the landscaping community. So we came up with the compromise of the 65 decibels. And everyone was pretty happy that night when we voted for that and left. And when they left here, people were patting themselves on the back saying, you know, we're going to work together and make this happen. And honestly, I thought the landscaping community was going to live up to that agreement. And sadly, you did not. We tried to enforce it, and it was difficult to do that. We did train. We trained our people. We assigned additional folks other than our property maintenance people to go out there. And it was just not possible to enforce it because the premise was that there was going to be voluntary compliance on the part of the landscaping community. And there wasn't. And I have to tell you that it is an insult, now for the third meeting in a row, for somebody to come up here and say it is the town's fault for not enforcing it, when the deal we made with you all, or your predecessors, was that we were going to have the 65 decibel limit, and that we were going to make a good faith effort on both sides to live up to that. So it didn't work, and it doesn't work. And last year we did a pilot project, and the results were pretty good. Now we're moving into an ordinance phase. We believe we have the right to enact this ordinance. We believe we have the right to enact laws and implement regulations that protect the public health and advance the quality of life of all of our residents. And that's what we're doing. We're exercising our rights here. And I appreciate the comments and the requests, even your attorney asking us for more time to see if we can come up with a compromise. But honestly, we've had the same comments for the last 6 weeks or plus, 2 months, that we've had these hearings. We have moved, you know, initially, if you look at the initial proposal, it was more stringent than it is right now. We heard some of the consideration. We've moved the dates a bit. We didn't ban, there was a proposal to ban equipment on the other times of the year. We didn't do that. So I think we've come a long way with this ordinance. And we're talking about, again, May 15th to September 30th, when you'd be prohibited from using the leaf blowers, the gas-powered leaf blowers. You can use electric leaf blowers, and you can use the battery-operated ones. I said this a couple of meetings ago about the externalities here. It's an economic theory about, you know, taking total cost into your consideration. But I just don't think that someone has the right to contract for your services to have you come in with the intensity of service that it does, and then have that be a detriment to the public good. We are unable to measure the external health and economic impact of your activity. You come in, there's noise, there's dust, we've heard it all. We've heard people say that they're unable to do work. They have disruptions in their family life. These are a balancing act that we've been unable to solve using the old standard of the 65 decibel and having the voluntary compliance with you all. So now we're moving to another stage. And And I do think there's a rational basis for this and the reason not to include residents in this. I think residents are in a different category because there is a different relationship between that residence and the neighbors on their block. And I think when there is a situation or a behavior that pushes the limits of the norms of that block or that neighborhood, there generally is some conversation that happens. There's an identification of two different parties trying to work towards a common solution. Because we have a common goal, they're going to be living there together. The difference is when the landscaping company comes in, quite honestly, it's to get the most bang for the buck and get out of there. And the intensity of the use is quite different, and the responsibility for the owner is one step removed from the person who's being aggrieved. You know, if my neighbor has a landscaper there, you come in, you do your work, you get out, I don't have the opportunity to speak to you or the shift person, the foreman in charge. I don't pay you. You don't owe me anything. I have to talk to the owner of the house next door, who may or may not talk to you, or you may not respond to that person. So as an aggrieved party, I have no recourse. So I do think there's a difference here, and that's why I don't support residents being included, other than outside the times that we've imposed here. But I do include the commercial landscapers. So I'll be voting yes. Anything else? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Okay, we have another ordinance on final, number 12.
Item 12, ordinance number 2855-17, an ordinance to amend the regulations on lawn maintenance businesses. This ordinance will amend certain provisions of the regulations regarding lawn maintenance businesses.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. Ms. Adams?
Yes, Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole, and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to the law.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mayor, just as a point of information, Mayor, this is effectively a cleanup because the 65 decibel ordinance was still on. So this continues the registration requirement, but removes that in light of the ordinance that you just passed.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Okay, we're going to try to get to these next three ordinances, then we're going to take a break.
Item 14, Mayor.
Speak into the mic as best you can.
Item 14, Mayor.
There you go.
That previously stated, we're skipping item 13.
Yes, we're skipping 13 because that's the 18th.
Bond ordinance number 2850.
So why don't you get in your report?
No, we just want to put it on the record.
Okay.
The reason that item number 13 is it has a return date of April the 18th, and it was mislisted, so that's the only reason. That's why there's no vote on it or anything else.
Thank you.
Bond ordinance number 2857, providing for various capital improvements in the Township of Maplewood, the County of Essex, New Jersey, appropriating the aggregate amount of $3,914,328 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $3,350,410 in bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the cost thereof.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on the ordinance for the bond?
Good evening, Dave Helmkamp, 571 Prospect. I had actually been here for the prior agenda item, and I actually noticed the date era, but didn't think to mention it.
So I'd like a merit badge for listening to the lawn discussion. Could I get a
No.
merit badge? No? Not-
No.
So it'll be on for the 18th?
We did actually get a memo from the planning board. We didn't think we were going to, so that's why we listed it for the 18th.
I figured as much, yeah.
Exactly, so we just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we had enough time.
And Adele told me today it was there, but I haven't seen it yet either. Okay.
Okay?
See you.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay. So is there anyone who wants to speak on the bond ordinance? Seeing no one will close the hearing. I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Louerier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We have an ordinance on final.
Yes, Mayor, ordinance 2858-17, exceed municipal budget appropriation limits and establish a cap bank pursuant to NJSA 4-45.14.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance? Mr. Roman, you're not speaking on this ordinance, are you? Come on.
You're gonna have to stay after.
Anyone want to speak on this ordinance? Seeing no one, I'll move this ordinance be adopted as a whole. I'm sorry. Yes, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole, and the clerk be directed to publish the same in the past ordinance, as a past ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams? Yes. Ms. Louerier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We have introduction of a new ordinance.
Item 16, Mayor, 2859-17, an ordinance to amend Chapter 271 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Zoning and Development Regulations. This ordinance will amend a provision regarding for sale signs, etc., to allow up to 2 sign writers, each of which shall be no more than 6 inches to be placed on any permitted sign.
Ms. Larry?
Yes, Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on its first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, hearing to be held on April 18th.
Second.
Mayor, I just want to bring to everyone's attention there were typos in there. The word riders, R-I-D-E-R-S, was W-R-I-T-E-R-S, and while there may in fact be people who do that, that was not the intent of this ordinance, and we have corrected that, and I've given that to Mrs. Fritzen, and she will make sure that it's published in its right form.
And this goes to the planning board for their meeting on the
This
13th,
will go
correct?
to the planning board, yes, for its submission.
Please call the roll for introduction.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Louerier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, let's take a 5-minute break. No, this was good. This was good.
Right. I'm glad what you said, because I wanted to close that here. Even that, you know what, that's okay. That, and if the life is like, there's no data. Right, on the in-person.
Right.
He also designated the country.
There is that. And sometimes I like that idea. No data. And how, and
We gotta get Frank Meeting done.
that's like Hillary. Right, can you make this fast? Imagine
I'm trying. Okay, we're gonna get started again.
We need to hurry.
And our first item has to do with residential sources of recyclable material.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to discuss that currently when recyclables are picked up on Monday mornings, or during the day, I should say, that some of us do not use the type of equipment that covers, cures the recyclables, and on windy days and days of inclement weather, it causes disruption on the blocks in terms of blowing debris or actual pickup, and as a result, some of the recyclables end up left on the street. And I'd like to see us having a discussion of the possibility of moving toward changing a particular ordinance so that maybe it's required for us all to have secured recyclable receptacles, if you will. So that way we know that if it is inclement weather or windy weather, if you will, that the recyclable will be secured.
Placed designated recyclable materials at curbside in a manner and according to a schedule promulgated and published by the township in a manner and according to a schedule. So it seems to me if you pass a regulation here tonight and Mr. Manning then has DPW, we posted on the website, it might be a first step towards doing that, saying basically what the intent is to either have the containers covered or lid on the covers and whatever else you want to do with regard to that. So what I'm saying is I think you have the power in here to pass a regulation that may achieve what Mr. McGehee wants.
Right. I think we need to have more conversation before we do it tonight, because I don't know if you're suggesting that we prescribe a type of container that people have, or, you know, is it okay to put a can out there and any kind of a top on top? Or does it have to be an attached top?
No, it can be, it wasn't secured. I think what happens, we have a lot of open bins, and so inclement weather, wind, for example, it causes the debris, the recycling, regardless if it's segmented perfectly, whatever, to blow all across, and it makes it less efficient for the process and the operation.
But I have a can, and I put another top on top of my can, but when it's windy, my top blows off. If I am going to put a bungee cord or something on top, that's going to create a problem for the pickup, because they are not going to spend time loosening up the bungee cord.
Let's put the whole can out, right?
So we have to have a little bit more conversation before we figure out what to, I absolutely agree, because you see stuff just blows down the streets on some of these days.
Absolutely.
But I'm not sure how to do it.
Sure.
Maybe that's, I know we have a very short agenda on the Public Works and Engineering and Planning Committee. Maybe we could put that on for discussion since the DPW.
You know what, yeah, I think that's a good idea. What also would be good is maybe you could do a email blast to your Managers Association to see if anybody has any regulations. Well, because maybe there's a way, that we can prescribe it. Because honestly, when the county gave out through us, those blue recycling cans a few years ago, they didn't have tops.
Right.
So we were giving people cans without tops. So if we're going to require a top, which I'm not sure is a bad idea, then I think we have to give people some more guidance and maybe some time period for them to obtain it and get into it and all that.
Yeah, I don't think it should be something that comes into effect immediately, but I think just from my assessment of watching it, over multiple blocks, over multiple years, it just seems like it's an opportunity to make our operations more effective, efficient, and keep our streets clean.
We have to think about how the haulers handle these things too, because they throw them, like I have 2 of those big blue containers. One has a successful opening, closing, and lid. The other one got broken by the haulers. So I have one with and one without. But, I don't know. Maybe there's a solution. But thank you for adding that to my short agenda for engineering.
That's my pleasure, Ms. Adams.
Okay, thank you. Next up is the Open Space Trust Fund recommendations for 2017. We've received them.
Oh, sorry. Everyone has a copy. Mr. Wolfinger is here also if you have any questions, but I think those are the recommendations that were provided by them. They seem reasonable, and we just need a motion.
Anyone have any questions or comments? Did you want to make a motion, Ms. Adams?
Sure. I'll make a motion. You want me to make an official motion?
No, just a motion to accept the recommendations from the,
I make a motion to accept the recommendations from the Open Space Trust Fund and the administrator for the OSTF.
any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lambrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Thank you for coming out. Did you have to sit through the whole thing?
Yeah, he's been there all day.
Okay. Thank you. Next up, revised fee schedule for the Woodland and Bergdorf. I sent around a draft memo. We've been working on these fees. The purpose essentially was to raise non-resident fees up. Maplewood nonprofit fees as low as possible.
Right.
Everybody okay with what we've proposed?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. There's been conversations that the mayor's had and I've had, and, in terms of making the fees right and making sense for our residents, our non-residents, public and private, and non-for-profit and profit as well. And I think a lot of work has gone into this to make sure that it makes sense in regards to those respective entities or segments. And I think where we are today is a much better place than we were before.
So, Mr. Desideri, we want to put this in an ordinance form, right? Fees? So I will send you a final copy. Okay? I'll send it electronically so you have it. Hey, no problem. State regulations on liquor licenses.
Yes, Mayor. The International Council of Shopping Centers, New Jersey chapter has been working for several years now to update the liquor license statutes in the state of New Jersey to improve development and redevelopment opportunities, particularly in downtowns. The current state liquor license quota statute dates back to the mid-1940s. New Jersey law limits new liquor licenses to 1 for every 3,000 residents. And once a community's quota is realized, the only option is to obtain a license on the private market, which goes in some areas upwards of $2 million. So this system creates a huge obstacle for redevelopers and developers, for entrepreneurs, for anyone trying to open a business to develop properties. And the statutes are generally viewed as outdated and restrictive to economic growth. So currently, the legislature is considering several proposals under Deputy Speaker Berzicelli, which creates a new classification of liquor licenses for restaurants, and they are R1 and R2. These licenses are limited to table-side service and prohibit bar service. In addition, to offset any devaluing of current liquor license values, the bill proposes a tax credit for those businesses. So ICSC and other real estate trade professionals have been working on this. The license definition for the R1 restaurant license is a restricted restaurant license which permits the holder to sell any alcoholic beverages for consumption on the premises of certain restaurants. In addition, the bill creates a restricted beer and wine license in R2, which permits the holder to sell only beer and wine by bottle or can. So they would be available, they have square footage restrictions, kitchen size restrictions, in order to make sure. They also have hourly restrictions and fees that go to the state and to subsidize the tax incentives and tax breaks for the devaluation of existing liquor licenses. And they also have fees that goes to the municipalities. And the fees are obviously much more reasonable than an $800,000 liquor license. So again, there's no bar, only table service, so that they don't compete with full-service liquor consumption licenses with a full bar and that atmosphere that includes. And it helps to increase by like 40 to 60% the income flow to a restaurant that doesn't have a bar or doesn't have the ability to sell alcohol. So it makes those current BYOBs, for example, more financially viable and secure, and more willing to open in redevelopment properties or in vacant properties throughout the state. So this is intended for downtowns. It's intended for chef-owned restaurants. And the other restriction, one of the other pertinent restrictions is that they can't, once the kitchen is closed, or you can't serve for more, any alcohol can't be served with these licenses for more than an hour after service is ended for food. So that, so they've been working on this for a really long time. I think, so I'm asking my colleagues to help get this, support this bill, and I'm asking for a resolution from us to the state legislature to move this bill forward. Because there's a powerful lobby against it, because people are afraid of their existing liquor licenses being devalued, but I think they're addressing that with the tax incentives and breaks that will help abate that.
Any comments? Some years ago, I was working with Mayor Robert Jackson of Montclair on some of this, and Berzicelli has been trying to get this passed for some time, and as you say, it's been just very difficult to move this. Many of the people who own liquor license are concerned that their asset is going to get stranded. They're going to, you know, just devalue. So I like the idea of the tax credits to help them with some of that. I think we should pass the resolution, and I think we should ask our assembly people to get on the bill. They're not listed on the bill as co-sponsors, and I do think particularly in our two towns here, Maplewood, South Orange, even West Orange, this would certainly help. Madison would certainly help a number of their downtown districts.
Right.
So I think it's a good idea. To be honest, I'm not sure where it's going to go. I'm going to be at the Conference of Mayors in the end of April, and I'll see Berzicelli and get a better sense, but I think it's a good idea to push this. A lot of towns are trying to do it, but it's not so much the liquor, it's not so much the restaurant, they're in favor of it, it's the liquor lobby that's opposed to it.
Right, yeah, I know. And the New Jersey Restaurant Association is in favor, but they're split between those who own the full liquor licenses and those who don't. So, but the overreaching thing about this is to entice new businesses to open, and as someone who's been working in downtowns for 20 years and who's my daughter has a restaurant in another state, it's extremely difficult to make a go of any kind of food service business with or without alcohol, and for them to be able to serve in a limited way, and then subsidize the income generated in the restaurant would be really helpful in getting some vacant spaces in some towns, particularly even on Springfield Avenue. This would be very helpful, and it would be good for the neighborhoods to be able to have some place. So, I mean, I can see a place like Cornbread that's opening, being able to be more financially secure with this.
So do you want to move, I'm sorry, did you want to say something? No. Did you want to move support for A 2452?
I do, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to lend our support to New Jersey A2452 to create two new definitions for restaurant liquor licenses, and to try to encourage our assembly representatives to also support this.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Lawyer? Mr. Lundberg?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Thank you.
And next up, Mayor's National Climate Action Agenda, Mr. McGee.
Yes, just a brief conversation. This organization was brought to my attention, and just thinking about kind of where we are in terms of sustainability, our Environment Action Committee, our green team, and the great work they're doing with some recent public announcement we'll talk about later this evening. You know, I thought it'd be great if we look at potentially looking to be part of this organization. Traditionally, this organization has been part of big municipalities such as Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and Houston. I know Philadelphia has its Greenworks, and Green Houston is one of the other organizations. But I think it'd be a great opportunity for us at a smaller scale to be involved. I know they'd be happy to have us. What I can do is later on disseminate more information about what is required. Maybe even when you're at the Conference of Mayors later on this month, Mr. Mayor, you can talk a little bit more. I mean, I think some of our actions tonight fall right in line with sustainability in our environment as well. So I just wanted to bring that up to the attention of the fellow Township Committee members in the interest of potentially becoming one of the smaller municipalities to join this organization.
Yeah, I would tell you that I looked at this because the information on your website is a bit old. It's from 2014. Because it references the 2015 Paris agreements. Yep. And also Mayor Nutter hasn't been the mayor of Philadelphia for a while, and he's prominently in here. And I looked at them a while back, and you're absolutely right. It seemed like it was the big mayors, and it really came out of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. So I think it would be great if they're looking for smaller municipalities. So yeah, I can check, because there actually will be somebody from the U.S. Conference of Mayors at this meeting. So I can check with them too.
That'd be perfect.
And see how to sign up, and if they're looking for smaller municipalities.
That'd be great.
Okay. All right. Consent agenda.
I would like to move adoption of the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Lawyer? Mr. Lundberg?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Anyone want to address the Township Committee in our second public comment period? No, thank you. Mr. Manning, administrative reports?
Yes, I have three items. One is that we were notified recently that we are getting continuing funding for our safe and secure community programs in the amount of $39,013. And this is basically for additional operations or types of tasks that is supplemented by the federal government, through the state of New Jersey. Second thing is that we are receiving $748,600 for our hazardous discharge, from the Hazardous Discharge Site Remediation Fund for further investigation of the Fresco Silver Company, Inc. This is being handled through our environmental company, TRC, and they will be taking care of this and going through the grant and So just
I
wanted to.
just want to repeat, it's 700,000 plus.
748,000.
$748,000.
Yes.
That we'll be getting for this.
Yes, which is technically, we've gotten other grants, it's about $1 million and four.
Just so there's no misunderstanding, this is to delineate the extent of the contamination.
Right.
This is not for cleanup.
Gotcha. Okay, now,
However-
the agency that's funding this?
It is being funded through the New Jersey Economic Development Authority.
Okay.
And we're approved by the DEP for that amount, but it does come from the authority.
Okay, so, but it's a state fund?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah, it hadn't been funded for a while. There had been applications pending, but this is a very nice, hopefully this will get us to where we want to be.
However, I did speak to our people who are doing this, and I told them the ultimate goal that we want is to be able to park cars so that they have an idea, well, that's what we were told we want to do, we want to park cars. And so there should be a limit or some sort of level which they cut off whether we're going to dig it up and all of that. So, and I'd like to read a letter that I received today. It's from the Office of the Essex County Prosecutor. It's regarding an internal affairs complaint regarding July 5th, 2016 incident, which named Chief Robert Cimino and Captain Joshua Cummins. Dear Mr. Manning, the Professional Standards Bureau has reviewed the above complaint made on September 8th, 2016 against Chief Cimino and Captain Joshua Cummins. We concluded that there is insufficient credible evidence to warrant a prosecution in this matter. In addition, the investigation and review of all information failed to disclose sufficient evidence to clearly prove or disprove the allegation, and it is closed as not sustained. Taken by this office, thank you. Very truly yours, Deputy Chief Assistant Prosecutor Gail R. Gallagher.
Okay. Any questions on the report?
Thank you, Mr. Manning.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Mr. Desiderio.
Mayor, just two things. We did receive a request from the potential developer of the property and redevelopment area to the assisted living facility, Hopkins Group, wherein they requested permission to go onto a piece of township property to do an environmental inspection. I bring that to you for your consideration as to whether or not you wish to grant permission. If so, we will enter an appropriate agreement whereby they agree that they will not do anything that is detrimental to the property and will restore it. So I'd like to ask you to entertain a motion to allow that.
Could we get a motion to allow the environmental study on that piece of property?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Let's call the roll.
Ms. Adams? Yes. Mr. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you.
And Mayor, since you're going to be seeing Assemblyman Berzicelli soon, and I don't know if it was just a format that Ms. Adams sent it to us in, make it a lot easier, it'll make it a lot easier to read than where I went to school, Catholic school, they made you use paragraphs. I don't know, maybe they don't do that in Trenton.
Do you want my notes for your resolution you're going to draft, right?
No.
Are we drafting?
I'll draft the resolution, you'll look at it, and you'll tell me what you want, okay?
So the question is, does one sentence make a paragraph?
It may, if it's,
I'm not sure.
if they
I'm not sure. I'm not sure Sister Mary Margaret would let me get away with that.
If it is a distinct idea, it absolutely.
Okay. Was there anything else?
No, I've actually said too much.
Anything for Mr. Desiderio? Okay, Ms. Fritzen.
3 items, Mayor. Okay, Monday was the filing deadline for municipal office, and I just wanted to report for the public who may be listening and the Township Committee as well, that we had 2 Democrats file for Maplewood Township Committee for the June primary, Victor D. Luca, Dane Daffis, and 1 Republican, Michael Summersgill. I sent you an email that we were having a professional sound engineer come and look at the system. So we have since then had that day-long process. We have a detailed report, and we're going to follow through on some of the recommendations. One is the replacement of a piece of equipment that's on the rack in the conference room. So making some progress, I hope.
We didn't get any messages tonight about the sound, did we?
Oh, there are messages that the sound is terrible and that people can't hear.
Tonight?
It's
Yeah.
always.
Well, it's not fixed yet.
Oh, okay.
I said that. We
All right.
probably need to purchase a new replacement piece of equipment.
All right, well,
We have 4 filmings in the township this week. We had one today, there's one tomorrow, Thursday, 2 Wednesday and 1 Thursday, and they're all residential. And one's for Benjamin Moore, paint, and the other 3 are all for Toys R Us. I can give you the exact addresses if you'd like. I'd rather just not say it here publicly.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know it's not my house.
No, and I did provide for you from last meeting, the election dates that Mr. Lambert
Yes.
requested.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, reports from elected officials. I think we want this, Mr. McGehee.
I'll be very quick. Just wanted to recognize the members of YouthNet for putting on the Welcoming Community Sanctuary City Forum at the Woodland on Friday. It was a well-attended event. We had nearly 300 students and other members of both South Orange and Maplewood in attendance. And I thought it was a great opportunity for our youth to come out and ask questions about what these resolutions and ordinances mean. Also, I just wanted to recognize Sarah Lester and her team for a job well done with the Ideas Festival this year. I was able to attend a couple events, and I thought they were amazing. Tomorrow at 4 p.m., there's going to be a Youth in Action night over at Psalms, but there will be MMS students there as well. So for those who can attend, I think it'd be great. They'll be talking about racial justice, LGBTQ rights, feminism, and environmental justice. Finally, no office hours this Saturday due to holiday. Thanks.
oh, there's the sun.
Mrs. Larrier,
No report there.
Ms. Adams.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
did you say Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Okay. Just one item, Mayor, about the, at Engineering Public Works last meeting, we just recently, if this township committee recalls, when was it, a few months ago, we passed an ordinance on Tuscan Road parking restrictions to limit. We had done striping for parking spaces, in part as a traffic calming measure to visually narrow the road. We asked, we had requests from residents since then that the current 2-hour restriction is limiting their ability, since they have no parking on the north side of the street. It limits their ability to have people overuse their own house. And they're asking, we talked about considering restricting parking from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. to limit the commuter parking, and also allow those residents to have parking on the street. So we did that ordinance, limiting it to 2 hours, but that's caused some issues.
We have to talk about that, because if we do it till 9, then we're going to interfere with the drop-offs and the parking for the Tuscan school. So we have to tweak that a little bit at times.
Okay, so should we bring it back then, I guess? Okay, so does anybody on this committee have anything you want us to bring back to that committee?
No.
Okay. That's my report, Mayor.
Mr. Lindbergh.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to just publicly express on behalf of all of the Maplewood residents and other surrounding community members who commute to and from New York City, that New Jersey Transit this week continues to demonstrate the profound problems with our state and our region's failure to invest in infrastructure. I had dinner last night with Assemblyman McKeon, who has been one of the leading advocates in Trenton for pushing New Jersey Transit to do better, and also for getting the state, the federal government, and surrounding states to properly fund infrastructure. And we've now had 2 derailments in 2 weeks. And it's expected that this derailment, we're already talking about trains from our line, one of the busiest in the state, not being able to run into New York, likely through the end of the week and perhaps longer. And this is causing serious problems. This isn't just causing delays of a few minutes or occasional breakdowns. This is causing, injuries and a fatality, as we know, last year in Hoboken, and now significant problems in Penn Station. And I just want residents to know that both your local elected officials and state elected officials are certainly working to make our displeasure known and our desires for this to be a key focus for the next administration in Trenton known, and we feel your pain.
Would you suggest we pass a motion expressing our deep concern or something similar to that for the operation of, this stuff just keeps happening.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have the wording that I would propose tonight, but I do think maybe for the April 18th meeting, some sort of resolution, just expressing our concern. This is a safety issue, and it's also a significant economic issue.
Sure,
There's people in this community who are struggling to get to work. Who a lot of people live in this community because of their ability to commute to New York City, and I'm fortunate that I have a relatively understanding job. But some people, who work, get paid by the hour, have meetings they have to make it to, are really struggling right now without being able to rely on public transit. So this is a problem in a lot of ways, and it's a problem that a lot of people saw coming, and a problem that money, could have fixed, but the current governor and others have chosen to ignore it for reasons that I think were much more personal and political than in the interest of the public. And I think that we should speak out on this.
Yeah, I think it would be like demand a meeting with elected officials from, sort of the Morris and Essex line. We can do that too. So if you want to put together something for the 18th.
I will. Thank you.
Why don't you put that, let's put some, for the 18th, let's put a discussion item on about New Jersey Transit.
Sure.
And how many millions did we spend starting the extra tunnel construction when Christie first took office, and only to end it?
I don't remember.
It was a lot. And to save some millions of dollars in the beginning of his term.
Yeah.
First term, that.
It was well above zero.
Okay, I just have a few items. One is next week, because of the Jewish holidays, the planning board is meeting on Thursday, the 13th. And so that's at 8 p.m. and my office hours will be on Thursday at 7 p.m. And also I want to congratulate the library on 2 weeks of the Ideas Festival. It started off with an amazing program at the Woodland and ended up Saturday with Pamela Ahrens, a local Maplewood author, who we made Pamela Ahrens Day on Saturday. She was very happy. She was able to drive home without getting a ticket because nobody touched her on her day.
Whole day.
The whole day. So it was really a remarkable event for the library once again, and so I want to thank everybody over there. With that, can we go into close for 15 minutes and just sort of touch base on this other matter?
Yes.
Have to get a motion. Do you want to do the reading?
I'll redo the reading. Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances. Whereas this public body is the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township of Maplewood County, of Essex State of New Jersey as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion upon any action upon the hearing specified subject matter. The general nature of the subject matter be discussed as follows. Is that personnel, Mayor?
Personnel, yeah.
To anticipate at this time that the above stated subject matter made public, this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Need a motion? So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams? Yes. Ms. Larrier? Mr. Lundberg?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor Dworkin?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Good night.